I'm going to read a few hypothetical scenarios to you. I don't want you to think about the correct answer. I just want you to react. You are sitting on a cold porcelain bench inside an abandoned greenhouse. On the windowsill, you find a glass frame containing a dried, pressed moth, a collector's item. You reach out to admire it, but as your fingers touch the frame, you notice one of its papery legs is still twitching. Slowly, rhythmically. You have a hammer in your bag. Do you smash the glass to release it, knowing the falling glass will tear its wings? Or do you leave it hanging on the wall? Walking along a secluded stony beach, you spot a hermit crab crawling across the damp pebbles. Instead of a natural shell, it is living inside a jagged piece of broken colored bottle glass. As it moves, the sharp edges are cutting into its soft body, leaving a faint trail behind it. Right next to it lies a perfect, hollow seashell. You pick up a heavy, smooth stone from the shore. What do you use the stone for? An elderly neighbor who lives alone invites you over for tea. She shows you an antique silver locket containing a black and white photo of a child you don't recognize. A week later, you visit again. She is frantically searching her desk, crying, asking if you've seen her lost locket. You realize the locket is sitting in your coat pocket. You took it during your last visit without thinking. Instead of handing it back, you help her search the room for an hour, knowing it isn't there. Why didn't you pull it out of your pocket? You inherit a preserved songbird from a relative. It sits on a wooden perch under a dome of thin glass. And the feathers are completely real, but the bird's eyes are made of clear resin. Every afternoon, when the sun hits the window, heat causes tiny beads of moisture to condense inside the bird's resin eyes, making it appear as though the taxidermy bird is weeping. You feel a sudden, overpowering urge to wipe the moisture away, but doing so requires lifting the glass and risking damaging the delicate feathers. Do you reach inside? You are waiting under a small wooden shelter at a train station during a violent rainstorm. An old stray dog is sitting silently beside your legs, shivering. Out on the exposed, unsheltered platform, a glass mason jar sits catching rainwater. Inside the jar, a single live earthworm is trying to swim to the surface to keep from drowning as the water rises. The dog looks at the jar, whines once, and then looks up at you. Do you step out into the freezing rain to tip the jar over? Or do you stay dry under the shelter and keep the dog warm? You are researching alone in a temperature-controlled historical library. You open a fragile, 200-year-old handwritten journal containing the final unpublished letter of a forgotten poet. As you read, a tiny silverfish scurries across the yellowed page and begins eating away at the delicate ink of the very last word. You hold a heavy glass paperweight in your hand. Do you crush the insect directly against the fragile page to save the written history? Or do you stand by and watch the creature consume the sentence? You're staying at an acquaintance's house while they are away. In the dim hallway, there is a quiet aquarium holding a single, blind albino axolotl. While leaning over the top to look closely at it, an antique gold ring slips off your finger and sinks to the pebbled bottom. The creature slowly turns toward the splash and opens its wide mouth to swallow the metal band, mistaking it for food. You have a pair of sharp metal tongs sitting on the shelf next to the tank. Do you thrust the tongs into the water to snatch the ring back, risking tearing the creature's soft throat? Or do you let it swallow the gold? You're walking down a deserted country road after a high windstorm. You spot a baby robin that has fallen 30 feet from its nest in a tall oak tree. Both of its tiny wings are crushed beyond recovery, and it is peeping faintly in the dirt. You look up, and on the branch far above, the mother bird is watching you silently, holding a worm in her beak. You are wearing heavy leather boots. Do you step on the nestling to end its suffering quickly while the mother watches? Or do you walk away and leave the mother to fly down to a bird that cannot be saved? You are visiting an elderly man in a care facility who suffers from severe, late-stage memory loss. He mistakes you for his long-lost brother, who passed away 40 years ago. With tears in his eyes, he hands you his most prized possession, a solid gold pocket watch, whispering, "I'm so glad you finally came back for this." You know that if you accept it, he will completely forget he ever gave it away by tomorrow morning. You also know that if you correct him and tell him you are a total stranger, it will break his heart all over again. Do you take the watch and put it in your pocket? Or do you tell him the truth and hand it back? It is the first bitter, freezing night of winter. On your wooden front porch, attached to the underside of a garden bench, you find a butterfly chrysalis. The silk thread holding it to the wood is snapping in the freezing gale. If you leave it outside, the frost will kill it before dawn. If you bring it inside to your warm living room, the artificial heat will trick the butterfly into emerging weeks early, into a sealed house with no flowers and no sunlight. Do you bring the chrysalis inside to hatch prematurely in the dark? Or leave it outside in the cold?